So some Christians are very perplexed about what is going on with this movement and the understanding of the millennial reign of Christ. We've read about it in the book of Revelation, where it said that Christ would return and reign for 1,000 years. But for the past 70 years, we have been taught that this millennial reign is yet to come. People are looking towards a rapture before all these wars and rumors of wars and chaos takes place. Yet we read that Jesus said multiple times that those standing there would not die. They would not pass away till they saw the coming of the Son of Man. And in order to stretch this out and make it so that Jesus was talking about something 2,000 years later, possibly, you have to go through a lot of mental gymnastics, which I'm not willing to do, and most people are realizing was a deception. That Jesus actually kept his word. He did return, and the reason we don't know about it is because we have been deceived. Our history has been overwritten, and you can change a society in just a couple of generations, and especially using tactics of fear. We look back now into the 1800s of all these strange mental wards or these mental asylums or insane asylums. And the most bizarre thing is they were housed in these things like castles. So basically, there is no one today no state or organization that would expend enough money to house insane people in a castle. This looks like a remnant that they stuck people in, left over from the millennial reign. People who would not stop talking about the truth, that Jesus was actually here, and that all this was a deception coming about. You find from people like Sigmund Freud talking about how religious fanaticism was one of the key factors of someone being insane or crazy. That sounds part of a plot. It is as if Satan was released and his minions, people, flesh and blood, people working for him, turned around and took everyone who was making the claim that Jesus was already here and threw them into insane asylums. And perhaps their children were left. And these children ended up in these gigantic orphanages. We don't have orphanages anymore. Why did they have thousands of orphanages? Why were they in the 1800s or in the 1900s selling children? You can find advertisements in America and Australia. Russia would have 2,500 kids a day sometimes going through and exporting them to different parts of the world. Where did all of these children come from? Or explanation for this? Everything is adding up. That someone deceived us, that Satan was released to deceive the nations again for a short time. This does not mean that Jesus is not still in power. It did not end Christianity. It just meant that that portion of the Bible and the understanding of things ended. The millennial reign ended. And then there is a short season. Jesus is still returning to judge the earth. And the Christians are commanded to take a stand and to take ground still. We are not called, and this is where the deception comes in, a masterful deception. We are not called to be watchers, to sit around and let all of the evil take place. Satan does not care if you become a Christian, if you exist within his prison. The reason for this is, imagine yourself if you were the warden of a prison and you had a bunch of gang members in there and a bunch of people always causing a ruckus. that they would destroy things and fight and make your job harder. Then imagine if a bunch of Christians a bunch of people converted to Christianity within the prison, and they obeyed the laws and the rules, and they were calm, and they looked after other people, and they helped, and they didn't fight you. In fact, they were very docile within your prison. You'd actually encourage people to become a Christian as long as they complied to your rules, as long as they helped your agenda in the world. Satan doesn't care where your soul goes later. He wants this place now. And Christians are helping through the deception of the Schofield Bible, introduced heavily in the early 1960s to deceive everyone into thinking that the millennial reign is coming, the rapture is coming, and that wars and rumors of wars were just supposed to happen, and that evil things taking place everywhere was supposed to happen according to the book of Revelation, and that Christians should sit back and be watchers, not interfere, not do anything, sit back on their hands, just take it and be calm and pray, and then align themselves with the actual forces of evil claiming to be good. Things like supporting people against Christ. You have an entire nation in the Middle East, Israel, and the religion for 2,000 years has rejected Christ. It is against Christ. And with the introduction of this Schofield Bible, Christians became almost enamored. They worship this piece of land and the people who reject Christ in Israel almost as much as they do Jesus. They give their money, they travel to the land, they pray for the success of against Christ. It makes no sense scripturally at all. 2,000-year-old scriptures were brought up by proselyte pastors, and Zionist pastors paid 30 pieces of silver to go on television and deceive you. And the introduction into the seminary schools with a false doctrine, never before taught for 2,000 years, entered the schools, and the pastors came out wanting to be good little sheep, and they preached a false message to get Christians to stand down and be good attendants in the prison. But that's not what we were called to be. Jesus gave us dominion over the principalities and to take ground in his name. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Christianity did not end with the end of the millennial reign. It's just a new era. And we have been deceived by this movement, this deceptive Schofield Bible, soft, weak, Ned Flanders Christian movement that has been so watered down that now you have LGB pastors in churches, and you see what's happening to them. Within less than 5 years, they all lose their attendance and close down. That is the mission of it all. That is the continual push. The ancient gods have been released again, and they're being worshipped. Ashtoreth, which causes people to be hypersexual. Moloch, the worship of the god of destruction of children and the sacrifice of children, the great abortion era. We have been deceived through these different gods that have been released again and which people are worshiping. So the mission is, we have formed a group called the Sons of Light and the Daughters of Light, which are revealing this message, of which a lot of Christians are going to have cognitive dissonance at first. I had it years ago about subjects because I had been brainwashed into this belief system. In fact, it is very convincing until you begin to look at the reality of what's happening and how churches have been on the stand down mode. Look how your country, Australia, Canada, Spain, France, Germany, America, are all being taken over. And they're being taken over by international bankers, corporation, and against Christ system, both secret societies and the ancient scribes and Pharisees of the day of Jesus. Nothing has changed about the religion. The Babylonian system still exists, and it's hidden in multiple forms. Most people do not realize some denominations of what is called a Christian religion or an alternative to Christian religion was developed by witches or Freemasons. They can go back and find the original founder, usually in the 1800s, early 1900s. They can find that the original founder of that religion was a high-ranking 33-degree Freemason. And it is part, according to the writings, it is part of initiation rituals to reach higher levels, that they must develop a religion that counters and fights against Christianity, the God of the Bible, the Christian message of the Bible, and they create an alternative or confusing religion to combat it or water it down or work against it. Most cannot defend this truth. When they come to you with these messages and they're trying to push their religion and all their arguments from there, the simple pointing out that, according to Morals and Dogma, written by Albert Pike, the head of Freemasonry after the Civil War, he wrote a book that was meant to be sent to all the heads of the Masonic lodges, and he made sure that they realized that Lucifer was their god. When they reached the highest level, this was who was in charge, or the god. In the oaths, they talked about that it was Lucifer. We can be assured now of what we are fighting against, and that pastors who will fight this message, some just have cognitive dissonance. They can't believe that they were deceived, and it takes a while for them to let it sink in. Others are members of secret societies they never told you about, and they know that the message they are teaching is deceptive, and they will throw you out of the church. They don't care if you become a Christian as long as you stay within the prison. And we were not called to live in a prison. Jesus said, "I have come to set the captives free." We have created a book to allow every Protestant Christian to understand how this deceptive method works. What has been used on us for nearly 70 years. It has been planned out for nearly 100 years. This deceptive, satanic method of controlling the masses. Every Christian Protestant needs to read this book to know your enemy. Jesus said, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." You need to arm yourself with the knowledge of how these techniques work. Along within this book is also counter-narrative teachings, where you encounter people who will say, "Oh, the Bible was just written by men." We have provided countermeasures that prove otherwise. They will say, atheists and evolutionists will say, "We evolved, and here is our evidence." And then in this book, we provide information that allows you to quickly counter their narrative so that there is no counter for them, because we did not evolve. The statistical probability of evolution is in the null probability. It is impossible. It is a religion. Every Christian Protestant needs to know the information in this book about the symbols they use, the glyphs, which put out a psychological message. They need to know that organizations have used television, music, and books to cause you not to see something. It's called preemptive programming, where they give you an answer for something before you develop a question. This has what's led the Christian church into not being able to understand what the Bible has said about certain subjects. They entered into the schools, they got the pastors to teach you a false message, and now you have led many years of your life believing that Jesus is returning when he has already come, and we have a different mission now. And it's time for you to take a stand and take your place within this. Get this book and join the Sons of Light. Reason to Believe in the link below.